Hello and welcome. Have you ever wondered why different women experience perimenopause so very differently, and why some whole cultures experience far few symptoms than others? Well, epigenetics tells us that both culture and conditioning play a massive part in our actual felt experience of perimenopause. It also tells us that we can change that story. My name is Sinead, and I'm going to uncover for you the 4 patriarchal myths that are sabotaging your perimenopause, and that shifting beyond these myths sets you up for an empowering transition to a clarity and confidence that was simply unavailable to your younger self. I've been a consciousness coach since my 20s. That's 3 decades now. I've taught hundreds of women. I've been a keynote speaker at mind body events all over the world. And since coming into perimenopause myself, I focus exclusively on helping women to tap into the gold that is perimenopause consciousness. With this perimenopause consciousness, we face symptoms head on. Mood swings, sleep disruption, anxiety, procrastination, irritability, low confidence, digestive issues, weight fluctuation, sex drive. There are so many issues, so many symptoms that can pop up during perimenopause. But with this amazing tool of perimenopause consciousness, symptoms are not only alleviated and eased, but we can actually free up the energy of these symptoms for other things like creative projects. Now, I know that speaking about transforming the energy of symptoms into energy that we can use sounds like quite advanced techniques, pretty advanced stuff. But that is why I only work with women at this stage of life, because perimenopause isn't just a shift in hormones, it's a shift in consciousness. And if you're feeling it, you're already there. That's all you need. So I help women feel empowered by perimenopause. I believe in every woman's right to perimenopause exactly as she chooses, but an informed choice cannot be made without shifting beyond these patriarchal myths that we're carrying in our minds and in our bodies that entirely determine our perspective and our experience. So my promise to you is to guide you through 4 shifts from patriarchal myth to empowered truth, so you can experience perimenopause as the transformation to a clarity and confidence that was beyond your younger self's dreams. Moving beyond these 4 myths is going to let you get off the hormonal roller coaster and bring your symptoms into balance, to feel a peace and confidence with your body, your changing body, even when confidence is super low. It also means that, really importantly, that you're not wasting these precious years bouncing from one medication to another, from one specialist to another, or any of the conventional medical approaches that are just not equipped to deal with your needs right now. It also means feeling more validated, more fulfilled, relating to others with more calm presence than you've ever done before. Now, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll answer them live if I can, or by email after. If you hear something that resonates with you, do give me a thumbs up. You can see the button in the bottom right corner of the video. And if you have any questions, just give it. If you see any questions popping up, then please just answer them. If they, it'll help me to know what's going on with you. So I'm going to give you a second to answer one now. So you'll see a question popping up. So just take a sec to answer that, so I just know where you are. And then also, don't worry about trying to remember things, because I am going to share at the end an article of everything I've covered. So just sit back and relax and kind of let this wash over you. So the first thing is, really, perimenopause, can it be empowering? Now, it's probable that you're feeling absolutely nothing empowering about this transition whatsoever, because the dominant narrative is it's the opposite. It's so disempowering. And, we're sold on a perimenopause that's a time of deficiency, a time of atrophy. And so I'm going to show you how this is just not true. But I also want to say a word on toxic positivity. So this is something in the wellness world where we paint everything as awesome. And it's really harmful, because often you're not feeling that at all. So to paint everything as sweetness and light can just make you feel worse about how you're feeling. So it can be not, the opposite of empowering. So while I do talk about perimenopause as empowering and as even something to be enthusiastic about and excited about, not saying it's picnic, it can be dark, and I'm not into suffering for suffering's sake. But I'm going to help you shift beyond these 4 myths that we've embodied that so negatively impact our felt experience that it can exacerbate symptoms to a point where you can barely cope. So, you feeling this? And if so, please give us a comment in the comments, or a thumbs up. Now, you may not be feeling any of these, and you may be wondering, is this perimenopause at all? A question I get asked a lot is this perimenopause? How do I know it's perimenopause? So again, what I always say is perimenopause isn't just a shift in hormones, it's a shift in consciousness. And if you're here, it's because your consciousness is beginning to shift. So yes, this is exactly where you should be. And thank you for being here. Now, usually when you bring consciousness to it and begin to feel into these, you'll feel one or more of these just kind of starting to pop up. It could be just a new level of sensitivity, that you feel more sensitive. It could be mood swings. It can be brain fog, a disruption to your focus. Your libido can be lower. Your memory maybe is acting up. There's a huge variety of symptoms. It could be that it's taking longer than usual to complete tasks. Sleep is a big one. So it could be that you're waking up in the night for no apparent reason, and your sleep disruption could be pattern could be way off, and you're kind of wondering, am I ever going to have a healthy sleep pattern again? You might quietly or not so quietly be wondering if there's something more serious going on with your health. Maybe also you're starting to feel just a little bit almost like you're opaque or invisible, maybe not as inclined to speak up in general conversations, or maybe in meetings. It could be that you've been to your doctor, and depending on your symptoms or on the doctor, you may have been offered either hormone replacement therapy or antidepressants. You may be on one of those already, or both of those already. You may not be feeling any better on them. You may be feeling amazing on them, but maybe you just don't love the idea of staying on medication long term. And it could just be that during this transition, you just kind of feel like you've lost your MOJO. So if you're feeling any of that, then I have some good news for you. And that is that an empowering and symptom-free perimenopause, isn't impossible. It's actually your birthright. And, but you need to move beyond these patriarchal myths and experience some deeply embodied mind shifts. So that is a mind and body reframing at a cellular level, and symptoms are completely transformed. So once you make these shifts, you'll feel like you're in the driving seat of your own wellness journey. You'll feel a self-connection and a clarity about what's for you and what's not for you at this time and going forward. You'll feel at peace with yourself and the changes in your body and identity. You'll feel more mentally able. And what you used to experience as brain fog, you're going to experience quite differently as an embodied, intuitive clarity. So just a different certainty and way of knowing, a different cognitive process. Your goals will change, and they'll be more in alignment with what truly lights you up. You'll have more confidence than you've ever had before, which is really nice. And it is what this time is all about. Also, beautifully, if you do have a teenage daughter, you'll deepen your relationship with her, because you're both basically going through the mirror image of the same hormonal shift. And if you're open to experiencing it as a time of self-connection and embodied empowerment, how better for her to learn the same. And how badly do teenage girls need self-connection and embodied empowerment more than ever right now, right? You'll also have a new resilience. And now, really important, I don't mean the pushing through kind of resilience. I mean a sustainable resilience, which comes from a stronger mind-body connection. You'll experience more depth in your relationship with your life partner. It's really important to understand debunking patriarchal myths is not about becoming a man-hater. It's important to distinguish between those two things. Probably most importantly is that you'll bring your symptoms back into balance. Now, often at this point, my clients say to me, "Oh, you mean cope with my symptoms better?" Because the hormonal changes are real. They're actually happening. So you can't get rid of those hormones just by changing the narrative and having these post-patriarchal mind shifts. But that's not true. you can totally transform your symptoms so that they are unrecognizable and you don't call them symptoms anymore. So it's not about coping. It's about flipping it so much that this transition becomes a force for good for you and for the people around you. We can have a totally different story and we can pass on that new empowered story to our daughters. And that is what I teach my clients how to do. So now let's dive into these 4 patriarchal myths that are sabotaging your perimenopause. Patriarchal myth number 1. Your hormones are the problem. Now, if you Google what causes perimenopause symptoms, you're gonna find it's hormones, the fluctuation in hormones and all that. And it is understandable that would be the given explanation for what's going on, but it is a real misrepresentation of the intelligence of the body, of the natural intelligence of the body. So the truth is, hormones are not the problem because, what is perimenopause? Perimenopause it means that we're moving beyond our baby-making years. So having less baby-making hormones isn't a deficiency. Yes, estrogen has other functions, but the body is determined that there are better ways to serve those needs. The body's decided that estrogen can be reduced at this time of our lives. So this hormonal recalibration, it's not a deficiency. What it is an adaptation. Now, we humans are the product of 6 million years of adaptation. And I just, is it likely that this incredible adaptability suddenly stops around now, but just for women? We have to remember that there are vested interests that have a lot to gain from us believing that we're entering an age of deficiency and that we need external support to be well. Also, the hormonal system works as one, the whole hormonal system. So just addressing the reproductive hormones is missing the whole point of the hormonal system, the beautiful, intricate symphony that it is. The fact is that hormones are not the root problem. Yes, they are. They are fluctuating. They are dipping and diving. But hormones are bodily intelligence. Now, we've less of our favorite hormones, but we don't have less bodily intelligence. We actually have more bodily intelligence. So what's happening is that the fluctuation of the hormones is increasing our sensitivity to what we're holding in the body. Hormones are the body's messengers. They're not the root cause, but they are drawing our attention to the root cause. But if we artificially reset the hormones, it's kind of like we're shooting the messenger. Okay? So it's drawing our attention to what we're holding in the body. So the true root causes of our symptoms are a narrative and paradigm that undermines your felt experience, unsustainable coping mechanisms, you probably suspected that one, didn't you? Living in our heads and from our heads, not from the body. This is a big one. Unprocessed emotions and unhealed micro-traumas held in the body. And then another really big one, a cycle of shame that women hold and have passed down culturally and cellularly for generations. So what happens when we buy into this myth that hormones are the problem? Well, first of all, we believe that we're experiencing a lack. Also, so it seems logical to artificially rebalance that situation with long-term pharmaceutical use. But also, really importantly, is we internalize the myth that we're experiencing this deficiency, which knocks our self-belief, knocks our self-confidence. We look to numb out that sensitivity. And I know that the sensitivity that the hormonal fluctuation brings is a lot. It feels like a lot. But numbing it out does come at a real cost. But probably most importantly, I think, is we miss out on the true embodied self-healing that perimenopause can offer. Also, we continue the cycle of disempowerment and shame, and we pass that on. So then what happens when we shift beyond the myth that hormones are the root cause of our symptoms? Well, we turn into the sensitivity, not away from it. So we begin to get to know what's in the body, what's being held in the body. As we move from head to heart, we allow for more self-compassion for what we do find in the body. We value our bodily intelligence, and we realize that suppressing bodily intelligence is not empowering. Really importantly, symptoms change totally, and they become more nuanced, more multi-layered, more interesting, kind of like quirky, often very difficult dance partners. We also realize that just getting through isn't enough. We're missing out. Really importantly, we break the cycle of intergenerational shame that women have held and passed down cellularly for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So that's a pretty big one. And, most importantly for you, perimenopause is transformed into an experience of self-connection and self-healing, an empowered journey that is your birthright. Okay? So let's go on to patriarchal myth number 2. Sensitivity, your new sensitivity, is a weakness. So imagine somebody says to you, you're very sensitive, or you're being very sensitive. Is that a compliment or is that an insult? It's not usually a compliment, right? Because we've been conditioned to see sensitivity as a problem, a weakness, something we should apologize for. And now imagine somebody says to you, wow, you're a machine. That's a compliment, right? Because it's a big part of our hustle culture is to bulldoze through, ignoring the messages of the body. And we talk about this proudly. We've internalized this concept of strength and power as being desensitized, removed from how we feel. A lot of my clients come straight out and say they need help because they're feeling too sensitive. Often they have teenage daughters who are also showing hormonal sensitivity, and my clients say it's just too much. There's only space for one crazy lady in the house, and yeah, it can be quite overwhelming, the sensitivity that comes up, particularly if you do have a teenage daughter. But how can we teach that teenage daughter how to wield this sensitivity if we choose to numb out our own? So the truth is that there is no strength without sensitivity. A more matriarchal concept of strength would necessarily include sensitivity, right? But also, so do all superheroes. Think of spidey senses. All superheroes have some kind of increased sensitivity of some kind, and their journey always involves learning how to ground this sensitivity so that it can be a force for good in the world. And that's what perimenopause is, learning to ground this new sensitivity so that it can be a force for good in the world. And the world really needs that right now. So what happens when we buy into the myth that sensitivity is a weakness? Well, we just don't really know how to feel what we feel, and we have this tendency just to push through. We don't know how to be in our bodies. And, in yoga, we look to animals for stretches because they haven't lost the sensitivity of how it is to be in your body. Also, when we experience the increased sensitivity that perimenopause brings, we don't value it, and totally the opposite. We look for ways to reduce it, and we see anything that reduces that as empowering, so we can push through. So it can be done with hormone therapy or with antidepressants, whatever way you choose to sort of numb out this new sensitivity. We see this as empowerment. And often the narrative around hormonal therapy is around empowerment. But that's working off this patriarchal concept of empowerment, a desensitized power, the power of not feeling very much, which is a false concept of power. And if we continue to work off this patriarchal concept of power of being desensitized, we continue feeling that our sensitivity is wrong, something to be ashamed of. We stay disconnected from our bodies, also from each other, also from our place in nature and our place in the planet. So, on the other hand, what happens when we shift beyond this strength? This shift that we see sensitivity as. The next slide. Beyond, and we can start to see it as a strength. So we start to actually get self-connection, which is such a rare and precious thing. It's like we come home, and now I'm not saying it's not going to be a mess when we get there, but it is home, it is authenticity, it is ours, and it is us. And when we see sensitivity as a strength, not a weakness, you don't feel the need to numb out. Instead, you develop a curiosity and look for meaning in the body messages, including symptoms. And there is a whole world of meaning there. This is both very empowering and also quite humbling at the same time. Also, really importantly, you start picking up on the body's messages earlier, so you don't have to reach quite an advanced stage of dis-ease before you're aware that something's going on. Pain and dis-ease are the body screaming at you because you didn't pick up on the subtler messages. Could be that you're uber stressed, could be that you really need water, could be that your heels are too high, and I'm not saying you're always going to listen to those messages. Who doesn't love a good impractical pair of footwear? But developing our capacity to hear those subtler messages of the body before they get so loud that we really have no choice but to, look for external support to turn them down. So hearing those messages earlier, it's like the cheapest health insurance you can get, the best health insurance you can get. So probably also most importantly is you'll shift your focus from shame around sensitivity and numbing out your sensitivity to pride in that and to grounding your sensitivity. And grounded sensitivity is true power. That's my definition of power, is grounded sensitivity. So you'll be stepping into your true power, not this patriarchal concept of power. So patriarchal myth number 3. This is an important one. So the constant growth principle. Our world is all about constant growth. So instead of a cyclical narrative where we recognize times of expansion and times of contraction, a rhythm that is actually built into our own menstrual cycle, we live with this patriarchal narrative where constant growth is really the defining principle. Like you see it everywhere from colonialism to growth being prioritized over human rights and growth being prioritized over climate action. So you really see it everywhere. And it has a huge impact on our perceived value as women. So as humans, our value to society is a basic need for survival. It's it's always been. But for women in a patriarchal society, that value, is very, it requires us to stay within very narrow boundaries in 3 S's: sexy, submissive, and ideally seed carrying. This is how our value is how we're valued in this society at a subconscious level. Now, women who choose not to have kids really feel this. We just don't really know. People just like, what do you mean you don't have kids? Like, this does not compute. We don't know how to value you. Even in an overpopulated world that still today is often met with like an awkward silence. So it's crazy. And then when we all move past our reproductive years, we all feel it. Our societal value nosedives. We become irrelevant and pretty much invisible. A lot of the fear that women feel around perimenopause is actually because at a primal level, we're aware that our societal worth is directly related to our fertility. And how much worse are symptoms going to feel when not only do we feel that they are completely useless, these symptoms are useless, but also that they're beacons to the world of our own uselessness. You can't underestimate the impact of this when you are visibly overheating in a room full of people, or visibly forgetting your words, or when you're giving a presentation. But this is a disempowering and false narrative. Truth. Everything is cyclical, and women's wellness is being sacrificed for this myth of constant growth, which isn't possible anyway. It's just an illusion. Everything is cyclical. Expansion, contraction. These cycles are the way nature works. And us pulling ourselves out of nature to pursue this myth of constant growth, it's unsustainable. It can't work. We can't beat nature, nor should we want to, because we are nature. But what happens when we buy into this myth of constant growth? So, first of all, the big one is ageism. Second one is sexism, because we have like built-in fallow time in our cycle, a time of rest and rebuild. Also, we tend to see symptoms as things to be like conquered, and menopause is something to be mastered. All this kind of talk, and that creates an internal tension in the body. And where like a kind of like a war, a mind body at war, where the body, we try to master the body, being mastered by the mind, and that's not a healthy relationship. So symptoms are not things to be conquered, they're processes. Importantly, really importantly, they are self-reflective processes that speak to your particular makeup, personal history, journey. Your symptoms are a complex blend of genetic makeup, environmental factors, personality traits, coping mechanisms. It's not random what perimenopause symptoms you get. Your perimenopause symptoms have your own unique fingerprint on them. Now, you're probably feeling like you'd quite like to give the finger to this particular unique fingerprint, but viewing symptoms as and women's wellness from this perspective, it opens them up to being far more interesting, far more like the journey that is your journey. But the truth is, women's wellness is being sacrificed for this myth of constant growth, and planetary care is being sacrificed for this myth of constant growth, human rights. So many things are being sacrificed for this myth. So it's something we've got to move beyond. And what happens when we move beyond this shift of constant growth? Well, first of all, we can stop judging this transition by the wrong measuring stick. Doing that at the moment, the totally wrong measuring stick. Your symptoms change from being sort of things that are happening to you to processes that your body is a part of that carry invaluable qualitative data on your own personal journey and unfolding. Your values shift, which allows new beliefs and a new narrative. And your true value as a woman can emerge, which would probably be the first time of your life. So that's why this is such an empowering journey. And that's why this is this beautiful unfolding, if you allow it to be. So that is shift. That is patriarchal myth number 3. Now, the final patriarchal myth is perimenopause has no purpose. Now, most female species have only 2 big hormonal shifts: puberty and pregnancy, if they choose to go that way. From an evolutionary perspective, menopause and perimenopause, actually, it makes no sense. It would be far better for us to stay fertile our whole lives, to have more babies, to have the best chance of survival. Why humans would select to move beyond fertility is not known and is given no purpose. Puberty has a clear purpose, pregnancy has a clear purpose, but perimenopause, we're told, has no purpose, which would be really annoying given the panoply of side effects that it comes with if it were true. But it's not true. Truth, the purpose of perimenopause is self-actualization. So self-actualization means becoming all that you can be. Now, this idea isn't new. In ancient Greece, it was called flourishing, which I think is a lovely word. And instead of talking about the year of a philosopher's birth, we talk about the year he flourished, which is thought to have been about when he was like about 40-ish and had attended to all his duties to society and family, and now could turn more inward to more, to self-actualization. But unfortunately, in ancient Greece, it was already a patriarchy. The philosophy was already a total bro show. And actualization was a boy sport. They did not rate women as thinkers. Now, I think that was because they perceived truth as something that was constant and unchanging. And we now know that women's entire brains change up to, I read, 25% during their monthly cycle. So that's huge changes. That might feed into the mistrust of women that we have inherited, and that basically constant and unchanging we are not. And the mistrust of women is the same as the mistrust of the senses. They're not constant and unchanging. So Plato said the way to truth is by applying thought and cutting off the senses. And that's the mind-body divide right there. You can see that the belief that the thinking mind matters and is everything, and the body's messages are not to be valued. In fact, like, to be mistrusted and just, made quiet. And that's still the source of so much disconnection and pain today. So, yeah, I say, screw the early Greek bro show with the mistrust of women, because we're not constant and unchanging, and it's the mistrust of the senses also because they're not constant and unchanging. Because we now know that survival is totally dependent on our ability to adapt. So constant and unchanging is no friend. And interesting as well, the thing that we are biologically primed for right now is flourishing. Our hormones are getting geared up for exactly that concept of flourishing. So estrogen has lots of functions, but one of them, quite interestingly, is called one author has called it the whatever you want, honey hormone. Basically, because so in pregnancy your estrogen increases, and that actually restructures mind and body to biologically prepare you for mothering, for putting yourself second, right? Caring for a little one. And in menopause, your perimenopause and then menopause, your estrogen levels decrease, which actually restructures mind and body to focus away from mothering and to be more introspective. Basically flourishing, what they were talking about, to be more introspective, more discrimination about what's for you and what's not for you, so that you can become your best self. We are biologically, hormonally supported in perimenopause to become all that we can become. Kind of magic, right? Pretty alternative narrative. So what happens when we buy into the belief that perimenopause has no purpose? Well, we just don't know which way to go. What's it all about? Why are we here? How do we get here? Also, really importantly, we totally devalue it. It is a cathartic process. So, who would sign up for a cathartic process when there's nothing meaningful on the other side of it? Also, perimenopause is a mind-body process. But if we don't get that, then we don't win in the mind or the body. It feels like the mind is failing us with brain fog and words and stuff, and it also feels like the body is failing us with all these crazy weird symptoms that are coming up. So in this mind body tussle, it just leaves us in a bit of a mess. Also, you keep hustling for validation in a world that believes your value is nosediving and your capacity to play on its terms is reduced. You keep seeking external approval and not developing the clarity on the boundaries, what's for you and what's not for you. And you need that more than ever right now. Also, relationships can suffer. Either you can stay in an unhealthy relationship where your partner isn't validating you, or you can leave a relationship which was a good relationship, but because of this new ungrounded sensitivity, the sensitivity that you're just not getting grounded and projecting. And also an unvalued aging process that brings a real dip in happiness, and you end up spending way too much time, way too much money, holding on to a previous identity to stay within these boundaries of, to be valued by society as we think we need to be. Worst of all, we miss out on probably, I think, the clearest invitation to your full potential that you're ever going to get in this lifetime. So that's a big miss. So what happens when we purpose perimenopause? Well, it changes totally. Really importantly, we lose the shame around it. Also, we get curious about our signature symptoms. Not only the signature symptoms, but also why would this most advanced species self-select to move beyond, to have a stage beyond fertility? Only us and whales menopause. In the whale world, post-fertile matriarchs are the leaders, matriarchal society, guiding the multi-generational youngers on how to adapt and survive. Now, has there ever been a time when that is more needed? And then that this hormonal priming for this mind-body connection. So you probably already know that there is a very well-established link between ignoring unprocessed emotions in the body and real disease. Fabulous Dr. Gabor Mate, love the man. He's written a lot about this. In perimenopause, we're biologically primed for the mind-body healing that is needed for lifelong well-being. Again, just beautiful insurance policy. So Gabor Mate says to heal, you have to feel. And sometimes with medication that can be taken away. Okay. We have our own unique blend of messaging that is pulling us into our bodies, and all that energy can be transmuted into energy that serves you, your family, your planet, the energy to flourish. This is your time, and that's what your hormones are telling you. So that's the fourth myth, that perimenopause has a purpose. Whew. Now, that is a lot. So I'll just let you take a deep breath. Okay, so let's look now at the old ways of managing perimenopause. So, some of the old ways. You can believe in the negative narrative that's based on these patriarchal myths, that menopause is a disease or deficiency or a disease to be cured or at least suppressed, circumnavigated, whatever, however you can avoid it or delay it. Also, you can read all the books that you can find, but these are, still have these patriarchal myths embedded in them. You can ignore what you're feeling or wait and see if your symptoms will get better or worse, but you're not learning from the signature intelligence they contained for your individual self-healing. You can try to stay oblivious to the fear-based messaging that says not to trust your own body by people who have some serious financial skin in the game and some serious finances to ensure that you stay surrounded by that messaging. Also, you can jump on this new wave of hormone popularity. Now, you may already have done that. But we do know that the last wave was sponsored by a subsidiary of Pfizer, and this is not our first time at the big pharma rodeo. So, so you may already be on it, but just for you to just bear that in mind. There's a lot of people that have a lot to gain from you buying into that this new empowering story around hormonal therapy. You can choose to manage your symptoms with diet, with exercise, do the blood tests, all the Dutch test, all the different tests you can do, or other coping mechanisms that you've relied on before. Or you can also keep on struggling with insomnia, with weight fluctuation, with reduced libido, trouble focusing, with mood swings, relationship strain, reduced confidence. Or you can try to numb out with the increased sensitivity with food, drink, Netflix, projecting your emotions onto your partner, social media, compulsive shopping, emotional self-isolation or actual self-isolation, prescription or non-prescription medication. But let's talk about another way. So let's talk about the new way that you can do this. Shift number one, release the myth that it's your hormones that are at fault and uncover the real root causes of your symptoms. Shift number two, value this new sensitivity. Stop looking to numb it out and start looking to ground it. Grounded sensitivity is, the source of your true power. Shift number three, forget about constant growth. It's an illusion that will destroy your self-worth and our beautiful planet. Shift number four, accept the invitation to the purpose of perimenopause, self-actualization. I need to drink. And shift number five. There is a shift number five. So these 4 shifts are only possible if you do shift number 5, which is to get support, get help, get coached to help with this, because just look at how the state of things basically at the moment. Okay, so reality check. A recent study found that 63% of women found this time either difficult or very difficult, using words like awful and nightmare. 93% of women felt that this transition had a major impact on their everyday lives. So we can see from that, most women find it deeply impactful, but most women find it not empowering, disempowering, and awful and nightmarish. I firmly believe that at least for our generation, possibly the next, every perimenopausal woman should have a coach, especially those who are struggling with symptoms, or if you have an interest in self-actualization. But a coach who's still buying into the patriarchal myths can't help you move beyond them. The right coaching is going to help you decolonize your mind. Also offer you these beautiful, deeply embodied mind shifts, the healing, the accountability, the self-love, and a totally new perspective on this transformation. So here's how it works. You're going to get ongoing support and accountability from a group of women who are going through the exact same transition as you and are committed to move away from the disempowering narrative and to experience this as empowering transition of self-actualization that it can and it should be. Now, here's the outcome you can expect, the outcomes you can expect. More control over your transition, feeling healthy and empowered and mentally strong, off this hormonal roller coaster, at least driving the roller coaster yourself, learning to drive the roller coaster. You'll be bringing the perimenopause symptoms back into balance and feeling at peace with yourself and with your changing body. You'll feel a new self-connection and clarity on what's right for you and what's not right for you. You'll feel emotionally stronger, more at peace with yourself and the changes in your body and your identity. You'll have a new resilience, but not this pushing through kind, coming from a stronger mind-body connection. Your goals will be changed to be more in alignment with what truly lights you up for the rest of your life. You'll have more confidence than you've ever felt at any previous time in your life. You'll feel more mentally able, and what you used to experience as brain fog will feel like embodied, intuitive clarity. You'll deepen your relationship with your daughter, if you have one, and you'll show her how these hormonal shifts can bring deeply embodied empowerment and self-connection. That's what they can be about. You'll deepen your relationship with your life partner and bring your symptoms back into balance. It's probably the most important one, to bring those symptoms back into balance. Remember, it's not about coping with them, learning to cope with them. It's about flipping them so much that they are a force for good for you and the people around you. Even at this point, I think of them as superpowers. So that might feel very far away from where you are now, but they totally transform. You can transform both the narrative and your symptoms so that they're unrecognizable and you just don't call them symptoms anymore. You can have just a totally different story to for yourself and to pass that on to your daughter or the next generation. So now you have a choice. You can either stay stuck in this hormonal and emotional roller coaster that you're on now with the disempowering narrative that's all around you and carrying these patriarchal myths in your mind and body that are coloring your actual felt experience, never certain when you're going to feel better, what is going to be waiting for you on the other side of this transition, and passing on this disorienting and disempowering journey to the next generation. Or if you think there might be a better way and you're ready to stop fighting and trying to master your body, but instead come to where your body is pulling you anyway and let this journey be one of self-connection and self-healing, if that's what you prefer, this is what I have for you. I've set aside some time for you over the next few days to talk to you about your transformation, your hormonal transformation, to have this as the most empowering time of your life, starting today. So on the call, we'll work to craft a step-by-step plan to transform your unique set of symptoms into this bespoke, empowering journey of self-actualization that perimenopause and menopause are supposed to be. To end your current challenges, be it insomnia, be it weight fluctuation, be it digestive issues, be it lethargy, be it low mood or swinging moods, be it rage, be it low libido, be it low self-confidence, to end these once and for all. And the cost of that call is absolutely free, but please, it's not for everybody, okay? So who is this for? So you have to either be in perimenopause or menopause. Either is fine. It doesn't matter if you're on any kind of medication currently. More important is that you have to, want the help and be open to listening to the messages of the body, because I work differently to a lot of coaches that are out there. If your goal is just to suppress symptoms or not to listen to the body messaging, then you'd be wasting your time and mine. So please don't, this wouldn't be for you. You should probably be above age 40 or 45, or if younger, just have a definite reason to believe that you are going through or starting into perimenopause. And you have to be serious about wanting to get help with a totally new approach. So who is this not for? If you're not yet in perimenopause or menopause, just wait. You're not there yet. If you don't want the help, or if you're not open to listening to the messages of the body, then please do not book a call with me. I can't help you if you're not open. And if you just kind of want to bypass the body, then working with me won't work. Also, if you're just casually looking for some quick advice on your hormones, please do not book a call. If you're completely skeptical about my approach, if you think it sounds, really out there, then please don't book a call. That's what you see is what you get. So yeah, it's only if it's resonating with you. Now, okay, so what next? How is this going to work if it is resonating with you? So how's it going to work? Yeah, we're getting a call. It may be with me. It may be with somebody who's working with me. It'll probably be with me, but we'll see. But in any case, we can do it either on Zoom or on WhatsApp, whatever suits you better. There's going to be an intake form, and you can put your preference however you want to be contacted on that. And there's a link below. So I would like, if this does resonate with you, go to the link below, click on it, and you're going to be taken to our calendar. And then when you get to the calendar, just go ahead, pick a day and a time that works for you. Time zone wise, just pick something that works for your own time zone. And once you do that, you're going to be taken to a short questionnaire form. Please, if you do want to have the call, please do fill out that questionnaire form, because it just really helps that we can be prepared for the call and know exactly where you are on your hormonal journey. And now I've not got to all the questions, I know, but I will do in time. And for those who are ready to go ahead and book a call, please go to the link below. Go ahead, book that call. Fill out the questionnaire so we can be best prepared. And it's been great talking to you. Thank you for your time. Take care for now.